Good evening, everyone. At this time, I call to order the third public hearing for the fiscal year 2027 millage rate. Dr. Straya, I turn the portion over to you and your staff. Please give a brief overview of the fiscal year 2027 millage rate and our, this is the third and final hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson Dr. Therese. Tonight we are here for the third of 3 required public hearings on the millage rate that supports the FY2027 budget. The board will ask to take action to adopt the final millage rate this evening. Chief Financial Officer Masana Millard, if you would come to the podium to give us a review of the millage rate.
Good evening, Board Chair Dr. Therese, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Strazier. Tonight we're presenting the final recommended millage rate for the FY27 budget following our third and final public hearing. This presentation culminates with months of work on the budget, community input, and careful analysis of our final tax digest information. We will walk through the purpose of the millage rate, how it supports student outcomes, the legal requirements, key economic digest trends, the recommended final rate, and at the conclusion, the board will consider adoption of the final millage rate for submission to Gwinnett County. The purpose of tonight's hearing is threefold. First, to present the final millage rate recommendation in support of the FY27 budget. Second, to connect the rate directly to the services it funds, teachers, classrooms, transportation, support for students, and third, to provide a final opportunity for public input before board action. The millage rate is not an abstract number. It is a mechanism by which we fund our daily operations of the Gwinnett County Public Schools, ensuring that we meet the needs of nearly 179,000 students. Let me briefly summarize the process that brought us here. We began an FY27 budget development cycle in September of 2025, engaging stakeholders and aligning priorities with the district's strategic goals. On May 2028, the board adopted the final budget and then the unchanged tentative millage rate of 18.7 mils based on the projected digest data. Since then, we received the final tax digest from the county, analyzed the changes and exemptions of reassessments and growth, issued the required public notice, held a first and second public hearing on July 27th, and then tonight completes the process with the third public hearing and final adoption of the millage rate. Georgia law sets clear requirements for the millage rate adoption under the OCGA for the district to advertise its intent publicly, hold at least 3 public hearings, conduct at least 1 hearing in the evening between 6 and 7 to ensure accessibility, provide public notice in the newspaper and on the district's website, and we have fully complied with all of these requirements, ensuring transparency and public engagement throughout the process. A millage rate is simply the tax rate applied per 1,000 of the assessed property value. For example, a home with a market value of $400,000 is assessed at 40% or $160,000. At 5 mils, the annual tax would be $800. The key point here is that school millage really drives the local funding for schools for the day-to-day operations like our teachers, transportation, classroom resources, and materials and supplies. And while the school board can only control the millage rate, all other elements such as the market value, the assessed value, these are things that are determined by the county assessors. The operating budget for the school district is the general fund, and it is the backbone of the district. Property taxes are the second largest single revenue source. In our FY27 budget, local revenue represents about 42% of the budget, and state revenues about 55%. These funds support more than 82% of the instructional services. But more importantly, we continuously align our budget with the strategic priorities and the stakeholder input to ensure that these dollars are going to work for our students. Now let's turn to the economic picture and the estimated digest for 2026. Over to the right again shows the growth in the gross digest is about 1.9%. Following down, net tax digest is about 1.4%, or about 0.9 billion. And then the estimated net tax increases is about 16.2 million, so that's additional estimated revenue for us. But also note the 3.8% increase in the homestead exemptions and the 4.6% increase in total exemptions. So while the tax base is projected to expand very modestly, keep in mind exemptions also decrease revenue. Looking at the digest for historical context, over the past several years, GCPS has reduced the millage rate a number of times, including reduction in 0.5 mils 2022, 0.1 mils in 2024, and then just last year in 2025, we lowered the millage rate another 0.4 mils. This demonstrates a consistent trend and effort on our part around fiscal responsibility and ensuring that we are balancing the needs of our students with our taxpayer impact. This, of course, is the chart that shows the lowering of the millage rate that extends more than just in the chart or the digest history before. This goes back to 2019, and as you can see, the millage rate was lowered by more than 1.1 mil overall. The current recommendation continues that trend, staying at 18.7 mils. The final recommendation rate is 18.7 mils for maintenance and operation, plus 1.5 mils for debt service. This again shows our responsiveness to our taxpayers and the responsiveness to the digest conditions. For homeowners, the estimated impact of this rate is approximately a $25 annual increase on a home, $400,000, and this would equate to about $2.08 per month. That figure is modest as it reflects limited digest growth. And then, of course, the offsetting exemption is also shown as an example, so it will depend on each individual's circumstances what that exemption would be. But it is also important to know that the assessed value, again, is set by the county, and they also handle the exemptions and the appeals. GCPS can only approve a millage rate. Taxpayer exemptions play a significant role in overall tax calculations, as we just said. We encourage our residents to review the list of exemptions that are currently available through the 2026 year. This, of course, is on the Gwinnett County Tax Commissioner's Office, and remember, the exemptions reduce the homeowner's taxable value. When comparing across our Metro District partners, GCPS remains competitive in millage rate and has the lowest per-student tax base than most peers. Specifically, our per-student tax base is $6,730 compared to $8,520 in Cobb, $11,411 DeKalb, and $20,294 in Atlanta. This means we operate a large system with comparatively limited tax capacity, yet still deliver our strong academic outcomes. Property taxes represent a smaller share of our total budget than other districts. Digest growth is then, of course, driven by that 0.76% reassessment increase and the 8.81% growth and development. Residential and commercial growth remains steady. Residential increased about 1.11%, commercial about 3.96%. But also considering exemptions and appeals, we'll also recognize the importance of what that means and being more conservative in forecasting and really careful in setting the millage rate in coming years. For those who want additional detail, the full FY27 budget and the 2026 millage rate information is available on our GCPS website. We remain committed to transparency and, of course, accessibility and your ad hoc input. Remember, we have our continuous input tool that operates all year round. And then tonight, board members will receive the final input on the budget, on the millage rate, consider the adoption of the FY 2026 millage rate, We would then submit the packages to the Gwinnett County. And the recommendation before you supports, remember, our essential students, maintains instructional quality, reflects a responsive stewardship to taxpayers' dollars, and the millage rate allows us to sustain strong schools, invest in student outcomes, and maintain fiscal stability. This recommendation reflects a balance of student needs and responsibility of taxpayer input. We appreciate the board's leadership and the community's continued engagement throughout this process, and that of our students and our staff. And this concludes my presentation. Dr. Estrella, I turn the meeting back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Millard. Now I want to call attention to our the speakers who may want to share any comments. We have a speaker signed up today, Mr. Bob Clyburn. Please come to the podium and share your comments.
Good evening. My name is Bob Clyburn. Do you need anything else? Just wanted to speak. I felt like at least someone needs to speak on behalf of the homeowners and taxpayers who would appreciate relief in the current economy and economic situation with inflation and other factors making it very difficult. I understand, I heard the presentation that the millage rate, the idea is to leave it the same, but I wanted to speak on behalf of lowering it at least a small fraction. It would be both a goodwill gesture and symbolic that people would recognize, hey, the board is trying to give us relief. If they hear that the millage rate hasn't changed, they won't see that. They won't know about necessarily all the budget information. So even a 0.1 reduction would be greatly appreciated, 18.7 to 18.6, so, or some even potentially some smaller fraction, but again, any amount would be appreciated. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you. Now I'd like to turn the meeting over to our board members. If you have any questions or comments, please, you may share now.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chief Millard. I have no questions. I asked them at our previous public hearings. What I would like to say is just kind of drive home this idea that understanding that the millage rate, revenue from the millage rate covers teacher salaries, staffing, student transportation, classroom instruction, and classroom resources. And as I mentioned at our second public hearing, hoping that GCPS continues to collaborate with other local governments. I know that the district has collaborated with the tax commissioner and has been able to provide some exemptions for some homeowners. Would like to look at potentially new legislative priorities ahead of the 2027 legislative session. And also looking at studying, understanding when you look at from FY 2019 to FY 2027, how the district has been able to decrease or hold steady the millage rate, yet housing costs are increasing, and looking to determine whether it is if there is something beyond the assessed value of a home. You know, we have data to show that the housing costs are increasing due to the assessed value of homes, and just wanting to understand if we can look at other districts like GCPS outside of the metro, also looking at other states who have districts like GCPS, and determining whether anything beyond rising assessed home values may be contributing to the rising costs. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield.
I do have a couple of questions. Ms. Millard?
Yes, Mr. Knudsen.
Starting on page 13, or chart, yeah, page or slide 13, shows overall county growth of 1.9%, right? Our millage rate, or our income from the millage rate remaining the same, is a 1.4% difference.
Yes.
Okay, can you explain the difference?
The thing is, that's the difference between the 2026 final digest, or final, what we're adopting right now, but the 2025 digest is a little bit different. So there's some budgeting in there, depends on, that's actual versus budget. See what I'm saying? So there's a little bit of a difference in there. Am I answering your question?
I'm not sure. I think I'm trying to go back to last year when we had this conversation around the growth of the county. When I look at that chart there, I see that residential, which is what our speaker here tonight was concerned about, right, had only a 1.1% increase. Okay, I personally know that my assessed value went down.
Right.
Now, it was only 0.5%, but it did go down. Agriculture was up 24%. Commercial was up almost 4%, which is actually the biggest category in the list. So my point is, it's very possible, and I was also going to ask you, I mean, you showed a chart on page, which one was it? Where's the one where it looks like it's a hamburger to difference?
Oh, the revenue.
Which one? That one. Sorry, I couldn't find it in my, no, it's 10, maybe it's 10? Yeah, it's 10, sorry. So on 10, it shows that the average increase could potentially be around $25 or, $2 a month. When I look at this, it actually could potentially be less than that. I mean, because like, for instance, my taxes, not much,
Right.
but they're going to go down. If commercial grew as fast as it did, and agricultural grew as fast as it did, and residential did not grow at the rate, then the average taxpayers
Could go down.
should pay less.
And in a lot of cases, that's what we've been hearing.
Right,
There's
so
been
I'm just wondering, I mean, so that's, so again, I
It's going
think,
to be based on the individual case, but in most cases, that's what we're hearing. Yes.
right.
This is
So,
average.
so I just want to make that point, that I think also, if I remember that with all of the funds accounted for and our proposed budget, there's a small number, probably less than 1% of our, that it might fund less than 1% more than what our budget. So we're not proposing a millage rate that puts any additional money into the coffers.
No, absolutely not.
Right. So so I think that's important.
If anything, we've been very conservative with the appeals, but we could get surprised, but yes.
Right.
So no, there's no.
Right, and we still,
We're not
yeah,
overshooting
we
it,
still
no.
don't know the end result.
Correct.
Of the appeals. So something that I missed the deadline on, but wish I hadn't. So the last thing then that I was hoping, I'd mentioned this before at some point in time, was that in this chart on chart 6, that we would maybe have updated that to show our expenditures by function so that the public could see when we put how much money is coming in, that they would see how much is going out, and that they would see those numbers are very similar.
This is true.
So I didn't see that, but I did want to make that point that I mean, I see the same chart,
Yeah.
but there was another chart in the budget workbook back in May that was
Absolutely.
really good at showing, again, that we're not expecting to take in a windfall over what's needed to meet our budget,
Correct.
right?
And that is this information that's in the budget book.
Right.
Yep. You have the
Yeah.
detail and then you have the pie charts.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So I was just thinking that that might have been helpful for our audience, just so that they see that we're not proposing, again, some kind of windfall. We're truly, based upon our best projections of what the state will do, what the federal government will do, what our local partners need to do in order to, and again, the lion's share of that increase is being borne by commercial and, which again, I don't like putting a burden back on them either, but it is important, I think, and this is something you might be thinking about moving forward too, is talking about the growth of the county, that what we're actually proposing is a tax reduction to those that were in the county, established taxpayers last year. Because for the most part, they didn't represent the growth in the county digest this year. Because another piece of that 1.1% are new homes that are a part of that residential number. And
Right.
so it might be helpful to have that data as well to
Broken
say that
Yep, we can do that.
new residents of Gwinnett are helping pay for the increase in what's, right, being asked of them this year. So, okay, thank you.
I think we can probably supplement that even on the website. You know, we always add resources, so.
Thank you for your presentation, and I have a couple questions piggybacking off of my colleagues, which are great questions. Looking at slide 7, the 1.4% estimated net tax increase, $16.2 million. So that, what does that represent again? Is that an excess amount that we expect, all things being relative in this
That's-
calculation
That's the change from the 2025
to 2020?
actual.
Okay,
Net taxes levied, which could be different to what you budget
right,
because of timing. That change from the proposed estimate for 2026.
okay,
So it might be a little bit different
right,
in terms of the timing of budget.
okay. Thank you for that.
And
'cause
and this is the legal requirement. This is the official tax digest and 5-year history levy that you have to advertise. So this is actually advertised
Okay,
in the newspapers.
okay, okay. Fair enough.
Not with, of course, the notes.
Not with the notes.
Not with the
Right,
notes.
right. This is officially published. Okay. Next slide, I guess it's slide 8. I would be curious to see the data under your little blue bubbles of the less exemption, the total numbers from years past, to get an idea of the flow of exemptions, because I can see some of the numbers from 2021, but not being able to see 2, 3, 4, and 5, and what we're projecting for 2026. Obviously, a significant bump.
You can see them
Do
here.
you have that information?
Well, look back here.
Okay. Yep. Oh, you blew it up. Okay.
Yeah, it was just a duplicate slide, just showing 2 different aspects.
Okay. So these are the growth. Okay.
And
I
keep in
think-
mind, over the years, too, you had legislative changes.
Right.
So you had increases in the exemptions over the years,
So steady growth.
including the what's that?
Steady growth in exemptions. And these are homeowners that are filing those, that are appealing their assessed values, like I've done in the past, like many other thousands of homeowners have done, to question those assessed values, and that we should do with our county as well. And obviously, the Board of Education is responsible for our own millage rate, and then the county is responsible for their millage rate as well. So that's, it's a twofold, it always seems like a double battle every year that we have to attest to. And I think that's always important to know. Okay, thank you. And I think the last question that I had was on slide 12. I like this comparison of metro school districts. And so this is telling us that GCPS spends roughly $6,700 per student of our tax base per student.
Correct.
Okay. So that is, and that is
In comparison to the other
metro
districts below.
school systems.
So we're the
below.
lowest.
The lowest out of
Lowest
all
per
the school
student.
systems. Okay. Okay.
Lowest revenue per student.
Okay. Can you tell us, because I'm curious myself, because I love your example references a home with an appraised value of $400,000. If we had the opportunity to lower our millage rate by, say, 1/10 of a point, what type of impact would 1/10 of a point have on a home with an assessed value of $400,000 have on our annual tax bill? Do you have an idea?
Well,
Put you on the
I mean,
spot, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, we do estimate these things all the time. 1/10 of a mil on average, so maybe not on a 400,000, but on average, is about a $6 to $7 million.
Say it again?
$6 to $7 million. $6 to $7 million for 1/10 of a mil.
$6 to $7 million.
Revenue. That's the revenue impact.
The revenue impact on, that's 1/10 of a mil. And that's the impact on our revenue. Okay. Yeah, about $15 on the homeowner for the year. Okay, thank you for doing that math. $15 impact. Okay. I'm trying to, I want to obviously create some perspective, because I, as a homeowner, feel the impact of all of this.
So do we.
Of what I've
Yep.
done incurred over the years as a homeowner, but now sitting here making these decisions, it's always important to have that perspective as well. So thank you for that. No further questions.
Thank you. Thank you to you and your team. I think I see some of the team members here.
Yes.
I want to recognize you all for all the hard work you
Sarah
can,
and Hoy, yes, they're here, and the rest of our team.
all of the hard work you all continue to do with this millage rate hearing process, as well as just our ongoing budgeting needs. So thank you so much for your hard work and efforts. And I also want to comment that the other two hearings, I've shared some comments and questions, so I'm not going to repeat those. I would just encourage people to, if they would like, or interested, to certainly go back and listen to the recordings of the first two hearings of our millage rate. I do want to share just briefly that I appreciate us having this both and mindset related to being sensitive to the needs of our community by maintaining our millage rate. I also am sensitive to, as a homeowner myself, the needs of our community and the impact of the economy and how many homeowners are struggling. In particular, we have senior citizens and people who are seeking to even become homeowners. There has been a significant impact to them, to their lives and their dreams as well, just in general around the financial impact. What is happening in our nation, in our communities, certainly is impacting our school system. I also am sensitive to the need to meet the needs of each and every child and we've had reductions in investments in our school system from the impact of vouchers that unfortunately is really rooted in our enrollment numbers, right? If our revenue is based on enrollment numbers, then it certainly impacts our school system and our funding. And when we have a decrease in enrollment due to outside factors, that's certainly an area of concern. So from the local, state, and federal divestments in education, I believe that is something that has negatively impacted our school system, and we see it in the numbers here. And so I just would hope that our community would continue to think about ways on how they can encourage our legislators to support updating the QBE formula. The QBE formula can certainly help with some of the needed resources that would help to address the current needs of our school system. And we know we haven't had the QBE formula updated since computers were, well, what is it? The old frame computers were in the 1980s were created, yeah, the mainframes. And now we have AI. We've evolved so much as a society, but our QBE formula has not evolved. And I do think and encourage our community members to please continue to support the need of our legislators to update the QBE formula. Then the other thing I wanted to share is the document you have here on slide number 10 when you shared the property tax revenue per student. And when we look at this information here, we have Gwinnett County 2023 through 2025. I'm looking at just the population.
What slide was that? Sorry, Doctor.
Oh, slide number 12?
Oh.
Slide number 12, thank you. So when we look at this slide, I really find it quite interesting. It tells a story. And I think the story that this is telling is we have a huge population in Gwinnett County, one of the largest school systems in the state.
Absolutely.
And we also have the lowest property tax revenue, which I find interesting. Than any other area. We look at Atlanta Public Schools has the highest at about $20,000 property tax revenue per student versus $6,000. That is really a significant difference, and I'm just have more wonderings around that. If you can share a little bit about this slide, a little bit more, and telling the story around this slide, because I also want to make sure that with being the largest school system in the state and having the least amount of revenue per student, how are we essentially making sure that we're meeting the needs of each child, even with this reduction or a significant difference in revenue per student?
You're absolutely right. If I were to look at that, I would want the same thing. But it's twofold. One, GCPS has been really good about economies of scale. So we keep our costs down. We do things because of the volume and the ability to have the leverage we have as a large school system. We've been able to do a lot more. With that said, though, with our revenue we also get, because we have a lower tax base, lower wealth per student, if you recall, that's what generates or allows you to be eligible for equalization funding. So you're going to get some offset, not all, some offset. It never makes up, the need.
Okay, and then finally, I mentioned about the need for updating the QBE formula. I want to ask our school system to think about some ways on how we can further engage with our legislators related to meeting the needs of our kids and funding. And so, Dr. Stray, I don't know if you have any comments related to how we can continue to engage with our legislators around that. That would be helpful to help support the needs of our kids.
So in the next few weeks, we will be working collaboratively with our legislative team and identifying priorities. So we will work with the board in identifying key priorities for the next fiscal year that we want to prioritize to engage our legislators, and always ensuring that those priorities align on putting children first and looking at funding formulas that could, over time, benefit us in terms of bringing additional revenues into the district that will reduce the cost and burden on our tax base here. So we're looking forward to those opportunities.
And I know I've heard from some community members around the benefit of audits. I think someone even mentioned previously related to how audits could help with this process as well to make sure we're optimizing our return on investments. So I'm curious to know a little bit more about what that could potentially mean for our funding our school system and meeting the needs of our children.
So, do you want to go?
I was going to mention the resource allocation, the equity audit that's going to be conducted by ERS is large. That's essentially the majority of the focus of their work.
And I think I heard that a lot during the town halls, conversations from the community, wanting the system to engage in an audit. I think one of the benefits is looking at where we could build efficiencies across the organization, identifying areas of opportunity that can be leveraged as we think about the upcoming fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. I think that's just another opportunity as we are engaging in looking at in how we're using our funding to also figure out ways on how we can optimize it and get the best return on investment.
Absolutely.
Without sacrificing quality clearly, and making sure that we're really closing the gaps and maybe looking at where there are some opportunities to allocate necessary funding to be able to close those gaps. So thank you so much.
Do you agree?
So the Gwinnett County Board of Education adopted the FY 2027 budget on May 28, 2026. In compliance with applicable Georgia law, the district published the required notices and digest history and has conducted 3 duly noted public hearings regarding the millage rate. Following such hearings and public input, the administration recommends and proposes for adoption a final 2026 millage rate of 18.70 mils for maintenance and operation and 1.45 mils for debt services, resulting in a combined total millage rate of 20.15 mils. Chair, Dr. Therese, I recommend approval of the final adopted 2026 millage rate.
A motion regarding the adoption of the millage rate. I make a motion that the Gwinnett County Board of Education approve the superintendent's recommended millage rate of 8.70 mils for maintenance and operations and 1.45 mils for debt services for the combined total millage rate of 20.15 mils. The total millage rate will remain the same from the prior year. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Dr. Therese, seconded by Ms. Rachel Ruffin-Stone. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'd want to point out that earlier in the process in the year, we had added several $100 million to our reserve fund, which obviously acts as a rainy day fund to protect us from anything that might happen. And I still feel that there's room for us to make changes to this millage rate. We've done our work, we've done our due diligence. I think a tenth of a millage, a tenth of a point, representing $6 to maybe $7 million in an adjustment is one that would keep us and keep this district true to our commitment to this community, that we are not only spending the dollars wisely, but tightening our spending of the dollars and tightening our resources and not being wasteful, as the community wants us to be frugal with our expenses. So it's just a reminder that I think there is a little room there. And I just want to keep everyone in mind of that there's several $100 million sitting in reserves to help us out. But I also think that that shouldn't be used as an excuse if we don't have what we need up front to manage this district. That is all.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, any opposed say nay.
Nay.
2 aye, 2 nay. Motion fails. Thank you. Board members, I need a motion to adjourn this meeting. Motion failed. I don't know.
Could we ask our parliamentarian if it's possible to make another motion?
I do believe that the timing requires the board to adopt budget tonight. I believe, talking to staff, that the county meets tomorrow. Is that right, Ms. Masano?
That's correct. As a matter of fact, the county's here to pick up papers following this meeting once they're done.
So the board will have to needs to consider a second motion of some kind to try to pass the rate tonight.
Chair Dr. Treese, permission to speak?
Sure.
So I guess it's just a question really to you, Dr. Treese, or to you, Ms. Stone. If you think that a 1/10 of a percentage point is a reasonable gesture to share with our community that we do understand the burdens that they're facing, and that that we understand that, and that we are sympathetic to that, and that we believe that without an additional $6 or $7 million out of a $3.5 billion budget, that we can find a way to make it work.
Considering the needs of our community and our schools, considering that we are holding steady our millage rate, I think that that is something that we have empathetically considered when we think about the needs of our community and we think about the needs of our school system, and balancing both and holding both true. As a school board member who stands firmly on meeting the needs of our students and knowing that all of our schools don't have what they need, I do think we have opportunities to certainly optimize. And I also support and maintain that we have responsibly held steady the millage rate. We did not increase the millage rate. And in fact, for the past, if we go to slide, let's see, just to be clear, if we go to slide number 9, we see how we have steadily decreased the millage rate from fiscal year 2019. There has been a steady decrease in the millage rate. We've given, of course, certain relief to our community members over the years. This is the first year since 2019 that we have decided to hold steady, not even increase the millage rate. So considering that we have consistently decreased our millage rate, now at this time where we have divestments in our public education, and we've seen it in our budget, we've seen the impact of it, I just, as a school board member, I can't understand and fathom that. And I certainly understand the need as a homeowner. But divesting again, this is just another small area that will help our school system. $6 million, you said? $7 million? What does that
Between 6 and
mean
7.
for our school system? Does that mean that children aren't going to eat? Because we already have, I just saw in the news, I don't have all the information, I just saw in the news that now children aren't going to be able to eat because there are some issues around funding with the cafeteria or food services. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that is going to be an additional cost that might not even cover the $6 million. Can someone help? Can the homeowners help put in funding to be able to feed our children? I can't fathom being a board member and being here as an elected official representing a community that has great significant need for $6 million, $15 a month, is that the cost of it? $15?
Approximately.
Who in this community would donate $15 to our community to help support the needs of our kids, to make sure that they can get food, to make sure that they have their needs met, to close the gaps? I'm representing District 5, and I'm asking our board members in District 5, we have significant gaps in our school system, significant gaps that we need to close. And I think we have an opportunity to close those gaps. I hold steady. I ask our board members to please pass this budget. Please pass this millage rate in the way it is and hold steady. I ask our board members, Steve Knudsen and Steve Gasper. And I'm surprised, actually, I'm quite surprised here that you all are not supporting this. Holding steady. We're not increasing. I'm asking the two of you to please recognize that we have gaps in our school system that, yes, we can certainly look at ways to optimize. We can certainly look at ways, but to have this impact around reducing our millage rate, I'm pleading for you all to please support holding steady the millage rate.
Ms. Millard, how much at the end of June, and maybe you don't have this at the top of your, but you've been probably preparing the report for this month's, isn't this month's financial report?
Closing the fiscal year?
Closing fiscal year?
Yes, yes. Are we anticipating putting into fund balance?
Yes.
No.
I mean, so there's no additional
You
fund-
have a few years where your appeals and your delinquents are growing, so your uncollected revenue is starting to grow.
So when you go to balance the books, even though there was 200 million through the 11th month of the year that we would be adding to our fund balance, that won't be the case at the end of June?
With the additional expenses, no. Unspent. Not by the time the fiscal year is closed. I wish. That would be wonderful. No. Keep in mind, too, January, the new statewide homestead exemptions, floating homestead exemption takes effect. So that's another compounding exemption. You have additional exemptions coming too as well. Not in effect yet, but January 2027. We're anticipating that impact already.
How much is currently in our reserve fund balance?
We are, in our unreserved, we are about 12 or 13%. I
What's the
believe as of May.
requirement? Yeah.
I think I might have it with me. No, I don't have it with me. Greg, do you remember that from the report? I know we're above the 12% floor,
Okay,
so policy-wise,
right.
but we're not ideally 6 months with of our reserve balance that we would like to keep between 3 and 6 months. We just experienced you want to say something, Dr. or me? We just experienced in the last 2 days, I don't want to give many details, but the state couldn't pay us. There was a glitch in their new software, and with the largest school system, so you can imagine millions of dollars becoming a question. If we didn't have adequate fund balance, we would not have been able to do payroll. It's the end of the month. AP, and any other payment that's outgoing. And the state was very concerned because they know that. Very concerned. But luckily we managed because of the reserve that we do have. And yes, you can always choose to use your fund balance. It's in your policy. You just have a process to follow. And, it's supposed to be in the policy for one-time initiatives. So lowering the mill another 0.1%, of course, is helpful. But that's a compounding effect as well, not just one time. Things to consider.
Has the state resolved that issue?
As far as I know, yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And remind us again how big the budget was that we passed this year?
Total budget, $3.5 billion.
3.5 billion.
General fund, 2.8, almost 2.9.
2.8 bill general fund. And we are in the process of conducting 2 audits simultaneously to assess how these funds are going to be equitably distributed across our district, across our schools, across our system, which I believe is absolutely fair, that all of our students are treated equally and fairly. No doubt about it, no question about it.
There's only
15
one audit right now.
What's that?
Sorry to interject. There's only one audit right now, the
We have 2
the equity audit. No, it's only one right now. What I was referring to was what was requested during the town hall, but that's not in progress in terms of financial audits.
Just the independent audit,
Understood.
the
Okay.
annual financial audit.
Which is
The
standard
field work.
protocol.
That's separate, right? That's that's standard
Completely, yep.
protocol. Right, right. I know $15 is not a lot, but $15 is a statement to our community that GCPS is committed to tightening their belts and stepping up to a commitment to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. $7 million can go a long way, but an equity audit will go even longer to find that distribution the way it needs to be. And I think we have board members here that do believe that, and that's why we're doing this audit. And I do think it's important that we pass, obviously, our millage rate tonight, but I think it's important that we pass a millage rate at 18.6 tonight.
I'd like to hear Ms. Stone's thoughts.
Madam Chair, it is, of my opinion, that the way in which schools are funded needs to be remedied. And it puts school districts in a position where, like the one that we are in now, and the reason why I support the current millage rate is because, and I thank you, Chief Millard and the team, for ensuring that we make informed decisions. The millage rate, which is a part of the school local tax, again, based on the assessed value of the home, again, determined by the county assessor's office, not Gwinnett County Public Schools. It funds teachers' salaries and staffing. And as a recent former GCPS teacher and as an educator, this is important to putting our students at the center of our decisions. This millage rate also supports student transportation, how we transport our students, classroom instruction and resources. And then I also looked at how we compare Metro Atlanta, how it's on it's the slide where you showed us how we compare to DeKalb, Cobb. Gwinnett is the largest school district in Georgia. Our student enrollment is 73% larger than Cobb County, which is the second largest school district in Georgia. Yet, GCPS, if you look at the property tax per student, we're spending less, significantly less. So GCPS spends $6,700 per student, where Cobb, $8,500, DeKalb, $11,400, Fulton, $10,600. And I want stakeholders and community to know that I am aware of recent legislation that has failed to address a lot of what is causing the increase in housing costs. It isn't tied to QBE. It is I would say it's in the District 1 context. And I'm hoping that the district will look at revisiting that legislation and also looking at what other districts across our nation is doing to, again, make sure that our schools have everything that they need, making sure that our teachers, our educators, our support staff have the salaries and everything that they need, our students are transported, the instruction, so ensuring that our students have everything that we need, while also ensuring that our taxpayers, our property taxpayers, and renters, because renters are also impacted by school millage rates. So how can we do both? And I am aware that there is some legislation in the District 1 context that would support providing homeowners with tax relief, and I urge the district to explore that legislation and how we are preparing for language ahead of the 2027 legislative session.
So what are your thoughts right now on the 1/10 of a millage rate change?
Chief Millard, could you clarify the recommendation for the district's millage rate for FY 2027?
We are not increasing the millage rate.
And can you also confirm last year's millage rate?
It was 18.70.
And is last year's millage rate higher or less than what the district is proposing for this year?
Last year's was lowered to 18.7 here, 2026. And you can see it here. So you see your 2026 is your 2027 budget year. Your 2025 is your 2026 budget year.
So from FY 2025, let me back up just a little bit, to FY 2026, could you confirm whether taxpayers receive relief from 2025 to 2026 when we lowered the millage rate from 19.1 to 18.7 mils?
Yes, that was a 4/10 of a mil reduction.
Okay, thank you.
So roughly
So,
24 mil.
Again,
Can
I'm
I-
wondering what you're thinking about the proposal of changing it by 0.1% to 18.6.
Madam Chair, I stand by my original motion that was second.
I got it.
All right, here's what I'm going to do.
Can I,
Here's what I'm going to do.
all right, you got some good news. Let's go with it. Let's roll. What you got? What you got?
So we all agree that the local funding supports our entire budget except for SPLOST projects. It's a part of everything that we do. Right, so the list that she read, it's nothing special. It's not that none of those things are going to be funded because they're only funded by local. It's all goes into one big pot and it all comes out and it funds the entire general budget, right? Okay. So we're clear on that.
Chief Millard, can we pay teacher salaries using SPLOST dollars?
No.
No.
You can't.
It's not what I said. It's not what I said. The general fund funds all the things that you talked about. I'm not talking about using SPLOST dollars to get us over the top here, Rachel. So here's what I'm going to do. Dr. Simmons would obviously support this measure.
I mean, I don't speak for her. She's not
No,
here. I don't know.
I know, but she,
You know.
she would.
I don't know.
So, no, you're right. She might, no, you don't know. But my gut tells me that she would probably support this. And she's not able to be with us unexpectedly.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask that the motion be presented again at 18.7.
Thank you.
I'm going to allow Mr. Gasper to maintain his conscience and vote how he feels he needs to vote. I have nothing to win or lose based upon my vote because the decision has already been made.
Thank you, Mr. Knesset.
So I will let you know now if you bring up the motion again. Can we do that, Mr.
Okay.
Pereira?
I
Or do
make
we
a-
have to alter it by a comma or something? Okay.
You want to make it?
I'll make that motion. And I will make sure
Thank you, Mr. Knesset.
that I'm pretty sure that when we have our discussion around our financial report, that we're not going to see $200 million disappear in unpaid bills, but we'll have that conversation when it comes up later. And is it at the top of page 2?
Page 2, yep.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion. I make a motion that the Gwinnett County Board of Education approve the superintendent's recommended millage rates of 18.70 mils for maintenance and operations and 1.45 mils for debt service for a combined total millage rate of 20.15 mils. The total millage rate will remain the same from the prior year.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Knesset, seconded by Ms. Rachel Ruffin-Stone. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. We have 3 in favor. All opposed?
Nay.
1 opposed. Mr. Gasper. Thank you. Board members, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn the FY 2027 third public hearing millage rate.
Second.
Motion seconded by Mr. Knesset. Is there any discussion? I have a discussion point. I want to thank Mr. Knesset for supporting this passage that is required for us as a board, a passage of a millage rate. And I want to thank you for doing that and support our school system and continue to encourage us to continue to advocate with our legislators on relief for homeowners, yes, both and also making sure that we're closing the gaps and meeting the needs for each and every child. Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. It's unanimous. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.